Legal.
What's going on, YouTube? Like I said in my last video, I'm gonna be making my new videos about motorcycle, mostly, kind of giving y'all some little information on that. So here in this first video, I'm gonna give my perspective on getting your first bike, because I'm fresh off of the process, and you don't really find too many videos on YouTube with new riders giving their advice. A lot of the videos I found were more seasoned riders that have already been riding for like a year. But I figure it's always nice to have somebody that's fresh out the process to give you advice on doing it. Okay, so you always have the question of what's the best beginner or starter bike? The debate that will never ever come to an end. Should I get a 250? Should I get a 600? Whatever you crazy, should I get a liter? Even though I think that's a little bit overdoing it. But this is what I'm gonna tell you is the very best beginner starter bike ever in the history of bikes ever made. All right, now I'm just playing. I don't be like that, but it's all up to you. This video is gonna pretty much kind of cover what I think is the best beginner bike, which is this one here, my CBR F4i. This is a 600cc bike. This is actually an 02 model. So about 11 years old now, but it still runs smooth, really low miles for being an older model bike, honestly. So I'm gonna just point out some things, and I'll also cover kind of more in depth of what I kind of think of the bike after I get finished pointing out a few things here. But I only paid $3 grand for it. If you look at just the aftermarket parts, the tailpipe, the steering damper, does have shorty levers on it. You have the carbon fiber tire cover right there. Pretty much just those things in general. Of course, the pipe especially. That's probably somewhere approaching like the $750 to, if not $1,000 price range on just different parts on the bike. So if you were to look at it like that, I mean, I only pay about $2 grand for the bike itself, and then another grand for the actual aftermarket parts on it. So yeah, that's pretty much about it. Of course, it's a beautiful looking bike, very similar to the 600RR, but still different in its own way. So I'm gonna kind of go into depth as far as different things to look at when getting your first bike, and why I think that this here is one of the best, if not the best, beginner bike here. And as you can see, Honda right there. So that is what we're going to be talking about here today. Yeah. We're getting a few points. First off, insurance price and buying tips, and also the price of the actual bike itself, and how much you probably want to spend with getting a first bike. Next off, some different issues that I actually encountered when looking into my first bike. First one being the size and weight factor. Second one being the comfort of the ride and comfort of the bike. Third being the power situation. It's always the question, 250 or 600 when getting your first bike. It's always the question. Next off, longevity, meaning how long you actually plan on keeping your first bike. And last, just how you feel in your physical ability here. So I'm starting off with the price. As you already know, when getting your first bike, you probably are, most people say you're going to probably drop it at least once or twice, probably. Not necessarily, I would say. It all depends on just how you take care of your stuff and how careless you are. If you don't put the kickstand down, you just get off the bike and let it go, hey, that's on you. If you come around the corner too hot and whatever, trying to be Mr. Top Dog, speed, racer, motorcycle dude, and it slide out from under you, hey, that's on you. But in the end, with getting your first bike, it's kind of, to me, common sense. You don't want to spend too much for it, because first off, you don't know if really you even want to ride a bike, probably, because it's just something you might have seen somebody with, you thought it was fun, so you wanted to get one. So you don't want to invest in something you're kind of unsure about. Second off, some people prefer to finance vehicles. Me, I actually bought my first bike cash. And the reason being is because that affects your insurance costs. If you buy the bike from a dealership, they want you to leave out the dealership. Or if you buy from a dealership and actually finance it, they want you to have full coverage insurance, which can be very expensive depending on your age and different stuff like that. Next off, if you actually finance it, you're of course paying more in the long run. So why not just pay for it cash, find a bike that's in your price range, or find a point that you don't mind actually spending for a first bike and then going from there. So my price for my bike was $3,000. I was actually trying to save up $5,500 for a 600RR, a Honda 600RR. But I found out about the F4i, which is what I got, that they actually don't make any longer. And that's pretty much was the predecessor to the 600RR. So you're pretty much getting the same thing, but at a lot lower cost. And next off, insurance costs. The insurance cost between a Ninja 250 and a 600cc Honda at least was only about $100 over the course of a year. I was quoted $450 a year for a Ninja 300, and then I was quoted $550 a year for my F4i, which is what I have right now, a 600cc bike. So the insurance is really not too big of a difference in the particular bike that I'm going to say probably is one of the best beginner bikes, and that's the one that I have. And then third, buy used, because like I said, it's your first bike. You might drop it or whatever the case might be. If it's brand new, you probably get a lot more mad or disappointed that you dropped it than if it was just a used one. And of course, when you buy used as well, you'll find a price for less. And if you buy used from an individual, then you'll get it for even lesser. And just FYI, when you do that, make sure when you go and look at it, you have somebody with you that knows about bikes, or have them to meet you at a neutral location and get the bike actually checked out. That's about $65 to $85 for like a 1-hour inspection. They check the brakes, hoses, lights, pretty much kind of all the basics on the bike. And it's up to you, of course, to kind of ride it and get the feel for it, make sure that the gears and stuff are shifting right and everything like that. So bring an experienced rider with you, or be confident enough in yourself to actually take the bike out for a short spin and kind of test the gears and make sure that everything is working correctly. Next off, the big issue is the size and weight of the bike. Me, I'm 6'1", about 210, so I didn't want to get a bike that was really too heavy. I sat on the 300. That bike weighs 380 pounds. I was able to lean it from side to side, have no problems with it, didn't feel heavy or anything. Then I went and sat on a Ninja 650, which was another, I guess you could say, competitor in me buying a first bike. And that one just felt really, really heavy. I actually went and looked up the actual size of it, and it actually weighs 470 pounds, which of course is almost 100 pounds more than the Ninja 300. And then, of course, the 600cc bikes, the CBR 600RR, weighs just like about 410 to 415, which is only 30 pounds more than a Ninja 300. So that was kind of the sweet spot for me when it came to my size and how the weight of the bike kind of fit in there. People do have a Ninja 650 and get it as your first bike. I don't knock it, but me personally just felt like if I was going slow and the weight on the bike was actually centered so high up, felt like, I don't know, I just felt like as a new rider, I might have a lot more of a chance of like leaning too much to the left or to the right and the bike falling over or whatever the case might be, because like I said, you probably have better chance of dropping your bike going at slow speeds than going at fast speeds. So that's how it is. Next thing is comfort. All the smaller bikes, all the 250 bikes, you have more of an upright riding position when you go, because those are just regular sport bikes. When you go to a super sport, the tank gets a lot more stretched out, handlebars get a lot lower, so in the end you go from riding like this to riding like this. This is not comfortable riding for extended amounts of times. I've heard of a few riders that had 600cc, like Suzuki's, Gixxers, whatever, and they have that for sometimes, and they do have smaller bikes as well that they ride more for like when they're commuting and stuff like that, where you don't want to be slumped over the whole time. So it's kind of a trade-off. Got to kind of see what you like, what you don't like, and it's more just a waiting game, kind of trying to see when you start actually riding, how does it feel to you being slumped over, or do you prefer to be straight up? But the best thing about the bike that I'm recommending, the F4i, which is what I have, is that I guess you can say a Ninja 250 you're pretty much hitting a 90-degree angle on that. For a CBR 600RR or any of the other newer 600cc bikes, you're probably sitting in closer to about a 60-degree angle, I guess you can say. I'm just throwing some numbers out, probably about a 60-degree angle on that. On the bike that I have, it's right there in that sweet spot, like 75 degrees. So you're kind of still upright, but you're not too far over, and it's like that sweet spot in the middle. That's the best way to describe it. Right, so like I was saying, the biggest thing as far as comfort-wise, what I was talking about is this here. You see how the tank, this is got like the tank right here, of course. If you were to sit the bike straight up, of course I can't do it now, but if you sit the bike straight up, this is pretty much even with the handlebars. If not, actually the handlebars actually maybe even be a little bit higher. But when it comes to comfort, that makes a huge difference because you're not actually leaning over the tank. The tank is more of just kind of like a little holding area, kind of for your body to kind of shift against, but you're not necessarily leaning over it like some of the newer series 600cc bikes. So that's kind of what I was talking about when I'm saying as far as comfort wise. So we'll get back to the actual discussion about everything here. Next thing is the power. I live in Dallas, Texas. Freeways is crazy. Simple as that. Streets is crazy. If you're in a smaller city that may not have too much traffic, hey, you might be able to do a 250 or 300, be the fastest thing on the road. Here in Dallas, people be moving. Everybody is zoom, zoom, zoom on the freeway. Even on the streets. I had a minivan try to race me the other day. I'm like, what you doing, dude? I'm going like 55 and like a 45, so I'm going a little bit over the speed limit. But this dude in the minivan, like, he's like straight going like 65 miles per hour. I'm like, dude, you're in a minivan with like 2 kids. What are you doing? But it was kind of funny, like, I didn't really think much of it. I actually slowed down and let him just go ahead about his business. But I'm like, come on now, bruh. But anyways. So, like with me, I want to be able to ride my bike on the freeway and on the streets and everything like that. So when it came to power, I wanted the power of a 600. But the Ninja 300, which is the other bike that was in contention to get to for my first bike, I heard from a lot of reviews that it does have enough power to handle the freeway at pretty nice speeds and stuff. Of course, you can't be going 80 on the freeway and then pop a wheelie on the Ninja 300. It doesn't have the power for that, but it'll get you from point A to point B, no problem. The Ninja 600, the more power comes in handy because as a rider, you quickly find out that that extra bit of speed, an extra bit of power, when you get stuck in a situation, you want to be able to get out of the situation before anything starts happening. If you're on a 250 or a 300, I'm not saying that you wouldn't be able to get out of the situation, but it wouldn't be as seamless. So that was me, that was the way I looked at it as far as wanting more of a 600cc bike, even though the 300, of course, is more of, I guess you would say, your typical starter or beginner bike, what everybody's saying. Next thing is longevity. How long you're going to actually keep the bike. In my case, with having an issue as far as pricing it and financing and stuff like that, I didn't want to have to go through the same process come 6 months from now, having to trade it in or try to get something bigger or whatever, something that's more fits to my riding skills at that time. So I wanted to get a 600 for that reason because it's something you can actually keep for an extended amount of time, like a year, year and a half, and you'll still be happy with it. Whereas with a 250 or 300, most reviews I've seen, people wanted to trade them in within about 6 months. Some people even earlier than that. Not saying that it's not a good bike, but when you start riding with your buddies and everybody got a 600 and everybody's going zoom, 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 and you're on the 300 like, kind of like trying to go, but you can't keep up. I'm not saying that you should be trying to keep up to begin with, but it kind of makes you think like, man, I should have probably got a 600. So 600 kind of the best of both worlds. You get, of course, the size and weight kind of a smaller bike, but with the power of a bigger bike. That's the way I like to look at a 600cc bike. So that's why I say 600 is probably perfect. I heard a lot about the Hondas. You got to see what's the best for you. But the Hondas is one of the best 600cc bikes for a beginner. The reason being is because on the low end, like when you first start actually riding, it's no reason why you should be getting your bike into like 12,000, 13,000, 14,000 RPMs. Really, because you're new on the bike. You're not trying to kill yourself on there. So on the low end, a lot of the Honda bikes, like the 600RR, the F4i that I have, they're very smooth and consistent on the lower RPMs. Whereas on like the Yamaha, the R6, or the Suzuki Gixxers or anything like that, it's a lot more abrupt because those bikes really, from everything I hear about them at least, they're really made for the track. But like I was saying with the Honda bike, they're kind of a little bit more towards the street side of things than being a straight track bike. So the Honda's a lot more smooth. Like when I'm actually riding in traffic and stuff or whatever, it's not like like come on the throttle a little bit and my bike like jumps. It kind of just eases into it. But when I do want to for real get it up there and give it a lot of throttle, then trust me, the 600, like the F4i, the 600RR, it for sure will give you more than enough power than you need as a new rider for sure. But it's not going to be like the Yamahas and the Gixxers. They're wheelie machines. Yes, you can do a wheelie on the F4i on the 600RR, but it doesn't give you as much of that lower end torque. At least from what I hear, and I really think it's the truth because most videos I see, people usually have the Gixxers doing tricks and stuff or the R6 doing tricks, whereas the Honda riders are more kind of chill and relaxing, like just from what I've seen personally. You tell about, of course, you can drop in the comment and tell about your experience as well and kind of see if it matches up there. But the last thing here is how you feel on the bike and your physical ability. First thing I'm going to say is, with being a new rider first time, definitely take a motorcycle safety class. For one reason, you'll get a discount on your insurance. Second reason, you'll feel a lot more comfortable when you do get the bike yourself. Because you pretty much know you've covered everything that you have to cover as far as riding a bike. And you, of course, can get some good riding experience and time under your belt before you got to step out onto the road. Learning on the road, no bueno. I would not recommend it for anybody. Not at all. Learning from a buddy, yeah, you can do that, but are they going to pretty much cover everything you have to encounter when you get on the road? Probably not. But if you go to the one of the motorcycle safety courses, they for sure, it's like 18 different lessons that you cover over a 2-day period. So they literally touch on everything a little bit to get you a solid foundation before you build a house on top of it, if you understand what I'm saying. So take the course, see how you actually feel riding a motorcycle. You might even get in the course and be like, man, I don't even want to do this anymore. Like, I don't like riding motorcycles. I'm going to finish out the course and I'm going to just forget about it. I've heard somebody actually doing that. But me personally, when I got on the first time, I loved it. And I highly doubt that I will ever, that there will ever be a time where I probably don't have a motorcycle now, honestly. At least how I feel right now with me first getting it. But you, of course, come out of the class, determine what you felt was your strong suits, what was your weak suits, and then kind of match that up to the vehicle you were looking at getting or the bike you were looking at getting, and then take into account your physical ability itself when on that bike when you do get it, or if you feel comfortable enough to get it, and kind of go from there. Because I say first, determine how you feel. Let that decide on what kind of bike you get, whether it be a 250 or 300 or even going to 600. Let that kind of be determined on how you feel. Not in the sense of just how you feel as in, man, I gotta have the baddest bike on the streets, but more of just like, do you feel comfortable on a motorcycle at all, or do you just want to start out slow? That's what I mean when that's how you feel. But get the bike you want and then practice. Go to an empty parking lot, late at night, whatever, during the daytime when everybody's at work, go to an empty parking lot or ride around your neighborhood or your neighborhood or your apartment complex or whatever, and then get your physical abilities up as far as shifting with the clutch or pulling the clutch in, letting it out slowly, because that's not a natural reaction at all. To have your left hand going like this constantly, it's really not a natural reaction. I had to learn that gradually. Of course, in a car you don't do that at all, so it's still a big difference even if you ride a stick before. But like, go to the parking lot, make sure your physical abilities and you just riding the bike matches with your confidence and how you feel as far as comfort on the bike, and then branch out. Go from your neighborhood to the surrounding neighborhoods. Go from the surrounding neighborhoods to the actual kind of main roads. Go from the main roads to the access roads, into the highway, and so on, until you get more comfortable.
The sky's falling, the wind is calling, stand for something or die in the morning.
Tidbits, tad-bits on getting your first bike. Hope this helps somebody out. almost forgot. Everybody always want to know in the video, how does the bike sound? That's the most important part. Seems like everybody. I can't tell you how many videos I've seen on YouTube with just bike sounds. But anyways, I love the sound of my bike. It's a very low tone. It's just idling right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and rev it up. Let me shift this on the ground so I don't want it to fall off or anything. But I'm gonna go ahead and rev it up real quick. Let y'all hear it. Yeah, real low grumbly. That's it, just idling to hear it like a little better. Gauge right there, y'all can see that. Try that a little more. So definitely some power behind it, but that's it. That's the last thing y'all getting from me. Peace out.